All right, it's a new year, man. I'm not gonna let that bother me. Hey, everybody, this is Kenny and
Kenny Squared.
Witness Sports on the Positive Tip podcast. Kenny, first one for 2022. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. It's already 2022. And we get a special treat this weekend. It's the first ever Week 18.
The first ever Week 18 is right. And it's really interesting. There's they tried to line up games that mean something. There's a doubleheader Saturday, and then obviously Sunday, and then there's a Sunday night game. So it's really a lot of football over these next few weeks. Hopefully, a lot of great football. And that's where today I think let's do something a little bit differently because we've got some really good topics and. I wanted to take some time to really pick those apart. And I don't know, let's start. Why don't we start there in Cleveland with Baker Mayfield? And it was a really interesting article that you sent me. Certainly they're out now, outside looking in after the loss to the Steelers. And, the Browns obviously one more game, but, their off season, I think, starts now. And they've got to really do some soul searching, or maybe they just write the season off because of injuries, COVID, and everything like that. Talk a little bit about that article that you sent, though, about a kind of a little bit of a different point of view about how Baker Mayfield should be getting a lot more credit and a lot more adulation. And talk a little bit about that article and what the feeling is like there in Cleveland.
Yeah, so it's funny because, it's kind of been still – Baker has been very polarizing, I think, throughout his entire tenure at Cleveland. But especially after this game Monday night, obviously it was the big farewell for Ben Roethlisberger, who hasn't officially announced it yet, but is more than likely retiring at the end of the year. And it kind of seems like it was like a big farewell for him, but also a lot of people were seeing it as a big farewell for Baker in Cleveland. And it's hard because, the Browns have had, I think they said 26 different starting quarterbacks since they came back in 1999.
Wow.
There's been a lot of instability. When Baker had his first full season here, it was the first time ever since they became the Cleveland Browns again that they ever had an actual, starting quarterback from week 1 to week 17. So he brought a lot of stability to the quarterback position. But it's seeming like more and more that he's not the guy that can take them to that next level. The Browns, as a roster, probably have a Super Bowl caliber roster.
Right.
I know this was, even at the beginning of the year, a lot of people were projecting them as the best roster in football. Excellent offensive line. An absolute threat in the running game with both Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Defensive Player of the Year, probably not going to win it now because TJ Watt has been amazing, but absolute Defensive Player of the Year candidate Myles Garrett. Jadeveon Clowney has been great. One of their bigger weaknesses, the secondary has improved tremendously. You've got weapons all around the place. But it seems like in all of the big spots this year, Baker Mayfield threw a bad interception. You can look back at the game against Green Bay. He did that.
Yeah.
Against the Chargers, throwing that bad pick. They had the defending AFC champs up 21-3 at the half. Not only could they not hold the lead, but Baker throws a horrible pick at the end.
Yeah.
The Ravens, they were up 24-3 or something like that, or 22-3. They were up big against the Ravens at the half and barely held on. There's so many games where it seems like it came down to, I don't know if I mentioned the Raiders in that weird COVID game.
Yeah.
There were so many times where they were that close, and it seems like they couldn't fully take that next step. And I don't know if it's a fully injured thing. Baker is not going to play in Week 18. He's going to be having his surgery that he's been kind of putting off. The guy has been an absolute warrior. He's been a guy that's been willing to play hurt, which you don't see a ton of guys doing.
Right.
He really, it was once again, an early interception from the early, I think it was either week 1 or 2. He threw an interception and then tried to like tackle the guy that got the pick. And since then, he's been absolutely hurt. Fractured shoulder, torn labrum in his non-throwing shoulder. He's had heel issues, leg issues, knee issues, kind of everything. So it's hard to fully judge like, oh, well, Baker is not a good quarterback. But out of the years that he's been in the league, he's only had really one excellent year, which would be last year. So I don't know. But also you look at it, through his tenure, he's had 3 different head coaches. Freddie Kitchens, who clearly isn't reviving the Giants' offensive schemes, and Hugh Jackson, who went 131-1 in his career. So like, it's not like he's had like a lot of great head coaching. Stefanski has at least brought them to that point of normalcy. And I don't know. To me, first of all, I don't think Baker's getting an extension this year. I would be surprised if they did. But I would at least bring him back for another year. Kind of like with the Giants this year, although injuries kind of hit them. Like, give Baker a healthy year. Give him a year where not both of his running backs are getting hurt and getting COVID. Your wide receiving core getting COVID. Like, giving him kind of a little bit more of a stable season. I think maybe you might be able to see him thrive. And I think next year, if he doesn't, you got to move off of him. However, if you have the chance of getting, let's say, like if you have a chance of prying Russell Wilson away from Seattle, who might be done there, although I don't know if he'd want to come to Cleveland. If you have a chance of acquiring Desean Watson, assuming that he'll actually be able to start. If you can convince Aaron Rodgers to come to Cleveland, I would go for any of those guys. Anybody else, I'd be kind of like, let's just go with Baker, run it back for another year. But I don't know. Because you also look at the division, Joe Burrow just won the North and has looked like he's now third in MVP odds, according to DraftKings. You still have Lamar Jackson, who was an MVP.
Right.
And who knows what Pittsburgh's going to do at quarterback after this year, but still they have a great defense. And they're the Pittsburgh Steelers. They haven't had a losing season in like almost 20 years.
Yeah.
So the Browns have to figure it out. Baker, I think, is going to get his last chance next year, though.
So is that the feeling there, that they'll give him one more year?
Honestly, I think a lot of fans are done with him. I think a lot of fans are just like, man, there was so much promise going to this year, and it's the same old Browns. We need change. But I think they should give him another year. And like the article had said, I think that he does deserve a lot of appreciation because, like, before you came there, the whole quarterback situation was a dumpster fire. The team went 1-30 and won over 2 years. Like, they only won one game in 2 seasons. Baker came in, and he hasn't been the 10-11 win guy they were hoping for, drafting for, but he's at least brought them back to where they can be somewhat relevant.
Yeah.
Like, they'll probably finish, they'll finish either like 7-10, 6 or 8-9, whatever they end up finishing up at. But like in most divisions, that wouldn't be last place. It's only last place because the AFC North is so good. Like they would finish probably in second or third place in the NFC East. So it kind of does feel like, though, the fans are done with him. If they do announce them bringing back, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of pushback from the fans. But you have to give him at least another year.
Yeah. I would propose a trade for you. I don't know if it would work or not, but I would say Baker Mayfield straight up for Russell Wilson would work wonders. Now, you mentioned obviously Russell Wilson would probably hold the cards there, right? But he want to play in Cleveland. And I would say, why not? I mean, that you've got nothing but weapons there. You've got the makings of a great team. You put a guy like that, the backside of his career, on a team like that, I think he would take that team to the Super Bowl. And conversely, Seattle at some point has to move past the Russell Wilson era and why not give this guy a chance there because he is talented. He's got some talent. He's gritty, and it's not a place where he's going to be under the spotlight so much as he is in Cleveland. And that fan base is as one of the best stadiums still, they say, in the NFL in terms of the noise level and stuff like that. I think he would thrive there. I don't know, obviously with football, it's a little like basketball, right? You got to make salaries work and stuff like that. And it was rare that you really see big trades until these last couple of years where you saw some big quarterback trades and stuff like that. But to me, that one makes, perfect sense. We blink. You mentioned also Desean Watson. Here we are. We blinked, and the guy never played it down this season, and we don't hear anything. That they've kept that so undercover. The fans don't hear anything about what his situation is. But that would be my second choice because I think he also would do great there. If he's past some of the stuff that he's had, and we're all about second chances, of course. But if he's past some of that, and he would also thrive on a team like that as well. But I think you need that veteran presence. I think they're a win now team, because we've seen that with so many teams in the NFL where that window could close pretty quickly. And while they still have some young stars like Myles Garrett, Clowney is still relatively young, even he seems like he's been in the league a long time. Chubb is still relatively young, but in the NFL, man, you're an injury away or something like that. It closes. You put a veteran like Russell Wilson there. But it depends. Does he want to play in a glamorous place, like New York or somewhere like that, Atlanta? Who knows? But I think he'd take that team to the Super Bowl. I really do. All right, let's jump into Antonio Brown. And you and I spent a lot of time last year talking about mental health. And I want to see if you agree with me on this. From everything I've started to see, I'm not a big, Twitter, Facebook, looking at all the stuff. I do like now, Bleacher Report, I think is really good. But it seems like as a society, we're reacting a little bit different than I thought most people would react. And what I mean is that it seems like the immediate reaction, here he goes again, this nut, what's wrong with him? He's a baby, he's spoiled, whatever. I thought that would be the overwhelming reaction, but to my surprise and really to my happiness, to be honest, it hasn't been that way. It almost seems like, people really feel bad for him. And I think, one of my first reactions as I was watching the game with Tim was that, oh man, Tom Brady's not even going to take his phone call. And that was a poor reaction and, underestimating the character of Tom Brady, because one of the first things he said was, he's still my friend. I feel bad for him and I'm still going to support him, which is Christ-like, man. That's, what we want to see. And I felt convicted right away that I was like, because Brady did go out of his way. Let's just face it. He's on that team for one reason, because of Tom Brady. There's no doubt about it. But their coach, who is probably the most straight up coach in the NFL, Bruce Arians, is a guy who waited very late in life to get his shot and is making the most of it in the places that he's been, particularly here now in Tampa. He was very, very straightforward about how he felt, about him. So anxious to hear your thoughts, and are you picking up the same vibe that I am, that we've turned a little bit of a corner maybe in society where we're looking at a guy like that, and it's, it's probably a mental health or a CTE thing. I know you sent me the Burfict, I think is, I always had trouble pronouncing his name, and he's been out of the league now for a couple of years after he got in trouble with the Raiders. But, that was a dirty hit. There's no doubt about it. That was a dirty hit. But it seems like that was a tipping point for him, right? Where he kind of hasn't been the same since. So what's been your take on it as you've watched this unfold over the last couple of days?
Well, I'll just start out with, first of all, I've never seen something like that during an NFL game where a guy just absolutely pieces out like that. Like I don't know if you've seen those memes, the I'm a head out memes, but that was like that meme in person. But it's just absolutely crazy how well, just how such a guy with amazing talent has completely fallen off the rails the way that he has. Like, cause like Odell has always been a bit of like the guy with the flair for dramatic. I mean, he's known for the catch in New York, um, kicking the net and that whole weird saga with that. Antonio Brown early on wasn't really like that. He was just kind of like that guy that would do his thing. Excellent receiver. At one point, like he was considered one of, if not the best receiver in the NFL.
Yeah.
And then I look at that hit and everything has changed. And for those listening, if you don't know the hit, just look up on YouTube Antonio Brown, Vontez perfect hit. If you start typing it, it'll come up. And also, as a warning, it's a pretty brutal hit.
Yeah.
Like you could see his head shake 3 different times. And really, he hasn't been the same between the weird stuff and like missing week 17, but then coming in with a fur coat when he was still with the Steelers. The whole dyeing his mustache blonde, and then having like the weird incident with the cryogenic and the frostbite. And then playing one game with the Patriots. But then, like, you get your chance. You get an amazing second chance with the greatest quarterback of all time. Guy gets to a Super Bowl and scores a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Which, like, if you said that in 2018 when he had gotten cut by the Raiders, people would be like, you're crazy. But, like, he got to that point where it seemed like everything was going well. You have the greatest quarterback of all time taking you under his wing, letting you stay at his house, helping you to kind of get your life back together. But then something that I had seen in a video, but I hadn't seen it anywhere else, is that apparently one of the things that kind of got him mad to where he started to refuse to go into the game was Gronk was getting more targets than he was. So he might have been getting a little bit jealous. And also, he has 3 separate bonuses that would have gotten him a total of $1 million if he had 5 more receptions, 88 more receiving yards, and another touchdown. Now, the Bucs would have definitely tried their hardest to get there. At this point, the Bucs aren't really playing for a ton. Like, they might end up in the 2 seed, the 3 seed. I don't know if they'll drop to the 4. But, like, they're not playing for a lot of stuff. So, like, if they didn't get it in week 17, they would have really tried hard in week 18 to give him what he needed.
Yeah.
So, like, it wasn't like they were trying to slight him. But, like, you can tell that there's something wrong. Nobody reacts that way and refuses to go in and then blames it on an ankle injury. Like, and it's hard to say, oh, well, he definitely didn't have an ankle injury. He didn't practice Thursday and Friday of last week, so maybe there's a little bit of grace there. But the guy was also jumping up and down trying to get the crowd all crazy. So, like, how bad was your ankle where you couldn't go into the game?
Yeah.
I do think, though, that we've probably at this point seen the end of Antonio Brown. I could see maybe another team taking a chance on him, saying that, like, kind of with the caveat that you have to keep your act together. But I don't know. Like, if Tom Brady can't keep you in line, who had to deal with the grumpiest coach of all time for 20 years,
Right.
I don't know if anyone's going to be able to keep Antonio Brown in line. But I think one of the biggest things is kind of like what you said. It's all about the mental health. There's been a lot of people saying, like, man, I wish him well. Not like, oh my gosh, this absolute clown is doing it again.
Right.
And I think it's important to kind of keep that same momentum, because I was watching a video where they were talking about it, and I never really thought about it this way, but it's so true. So often, the NFL is very quick to kind of forget about you. Like we go through those a lot with baseball where it's like forgotten guys like, oh, what happened to him? I'll give an example of a guy right now. Adam Jones. Where did he go?
Yeah.
Like it's very quick to just kind of be forgotten in the NFL. And for someone like Antonio Brown that has some pretty significant mental health issues, I hope that doesn't mean that in 5-10 years we get a notification Antonio Brown dies by suicide, and then they do the scan and find out that he has CTE. Like I hope that he can get the help that he needs now. And I hope that the NFL kind of looks at this and like not from a this guy is crazy standpoint, but why is this guy crazy standpoint?
Yeah.
Because he wasn't like this. And obviously that hit had to have been something in there. Like if I'm the NFL, regardless of like how he's gotten to this point, I would try to get him the help that he needs. Because also, well, even from a selfish standpoint, the NFL wouldn't want to get sued by Antonio Brown's estate because they didn't do anything.
Yeah. I love everything you said. I think it's dead on. And I think it shows the Steelers, you don't want to see this stuff, but the Steelers retaliated that night. And I remember watching that game. It was a Saturday night. It was a playoff game, I believe, on a Saturday night. And they all rallied around him. And there was a blindside hit on Perfect. I'll just say Vontaze. And the Steelers just were cheering about. I mean, again, you don't like to see that, but they felt so bad that that Brown had taken it. It was a dirty hit. It came across the blind side. Here's a couple of quick things on what you said, though, that I want to. Again, we're fans just outside looking in. We're not insiders. We have no idea. So we can only go by what we see, right? And what our gut says. When the stuff came out about the 8 more catches, and I think it was $300,000 at first, and then it grew to almost $1 million. I think that was a further step. I mean, when you look at this coach, if it was any other coach or if it was a team that was out of it or whatever, this team just wants to win. I think that was the furthest thing from their mind. And the NFL teams most of the NFL teams make a lot of money. Are they concerned with $300,000 bonus for Antonio Brown? You know what I mean? Where they would freeze him out. And now the real story hasn't come out. He hasn't said that, right? Because he hasn't said much. Antonio Brown hasn't. But Arians didn't even address it. He just, when a reporter asked him about it, he's like, really? He just, and like I said, he's such a straight up guy. Again, he's one of these old school coaches that is so grateful for the opportunity that he got. Do you think that Brady would say, hey, we're not going to throw to Antonio because we don't want to pay him? It's so off the realm. So I don't think that happens. Here's the other thing that shows that people were really trying to help him. It's kind of gotten lost in translation. And I know here in New York, they've made it a really serious felony crime. Wasn't he suspended very quietly for 3 games for showing a fake COVID card, saying that he was vaccinated? So now Arians apparently, when they brought him on board, said you get one chance. You know what I mean? You can't slip up once, one time and you're gone. And so he had been kind of a model citizen up until that point. But with the COVID thing, Arians went to him and gave him another chance, and said, all right, I know I said, one chance, but I'm going to give you another. And so this idea that Tampa was out to get him maybe, or there's, kept him off the field, wanted him to play through an injury. I just don't, everything doesn't point to that, right? Why would he give him another chance? Why would he keep him on the team? Listen, at this point in his career, he's not the best wide receiver in the league like he was, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. He's middle of the road at best. He's crafty. He knows how to get open, right? And he's done well. But they could have found another wide receiver, to put in there. But they gave him. So nothing really points to Tampa's thing. So to me, it just really points to mental health. what would cause a guy to snap like that? Now listen, maybe Arians was very stern with him and said, listen, I'm going to put you in when I put you in. Who knows? But it's not like, I mean, he played for the Steelers coach, who's also very tough and very straightforward, and who gave him another chance also when he recorded. Do you remember this? He recorded the team meeting and posted it on social media.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and a lot of coaches would have kicked him off the team then, and he didn't. So I think to me it all points to there's something off. There's something off in his. I don't even want to say in his character. I think it has to do with something off. Listen, you said that you never saw anything like that. I've been watching football twice as long as you have, right? Twice as old as you. I never saw anything like that. So these veteran announcers or coaches who've been in football a heck of a lot longer than any of us said that they never saw anything like that. And that's the reason why, because nothing like that has ever happened. Nobody's ever taken their full uniform off and walked shirtless. It's implausible when you even think about it. And he's taking selfies on the way out. I don't know if you saw that. He had a selfie with a couple of guys in the tunnel and, asking state troopers, hey, can you give me a ride to the airport? I mean, really? So, and I'm not making fun of it at this point, but because I think it shows the world that mental health is such a serious thing. And we've seen it, with so many people over this past year. And I hope and pray that he gets the help, but I also hope and pray that he talks about it, publicly, because I think that'll also help others.
Yeah.
Tampa will be fine without him. I think Tampa can still get to the Super Bowl again and win it. Would any of us be surprised? The Rams were my pick, but I wouldn't be surprised if Tampa's back in the Super Bowl and they win it, this year. If they lost Tom Brady, forget it. But I hate to say that Antonio Brown at this point in his career, they'll be fine without him. But hopefully he gets the help that he needs.
Yeah. And you mentioned the fake Max card. That's you could get 7 years in prison time for that. And that also stemmed from a guy, apparently he slighted his personal chef and didn't pay him not a ton of money. And the guy basically was like, all right, fine. He has a fake Max card. So, yeah, and I think the only reason why he got that second chance in Tampa was because of Brady. And then, you're going to basically slight Brady. It's all mental health. And I really hope that people, can kind of see that more.
Yeah.
Because also, not a ton of people are talking about it. The guy took a huge hit a few years ago and really hasn't been the same since. Even as a player, he hasn't been the elite player that people thought that he would be.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I really hope that he gets the help he definitely needs.
Something was left on the field after that hit. No, there's no doubt about it. And the NFL knows that, too. And they've been better at the head injuries, right? They've made the game. You don't see many penalties this year for targeting, for launching yourself. When you watch, and I watched some of the college games, the playoff games, which were total bust, by the way. I know you know that. But I think the championship game will be good. But you don't at that level, you're seeing better tactics when it comes to tackling. So I think that there's been a groundswell in there, with the head injuries and everything like that. Trouble is, you've got a lot of people that is not going to come out for now, several years, with some of the head injuries and the impact, that it has. But what Vontaze did that night was totally uncalled for. It was dirty hit. Whole 9 yards. So, all right. You want to get to New Year's resolutions for the Mets and the Knicks?
Yeah. I figure we could do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I figure we'd do football next week since it'll be the end of the year. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we'll get
Yeah.
We'll get these guys in.
Definitely 4 wins. I mean, Although the Jets should have won that game. I mean, Brady is unbelievable, unbelievable.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll go first real quick. I've got two things, New Year's resolutions for the Mets. I think they're working at this. They've got to change their culture. The Mets culture, especially this past year. I mean, we could go down the list of Lindor and McNeil and thumbs down, and not one but two guys getting GMs getting fired for off the field stuff. Not for their performance or anything like that. I think that Sandy Alderson is obviously one of the best long time executive there, but I think that the Mets have to continue to work hard at changing their culture, and so that's one resolution for them. I think Buck Showalter is going to be a big part of that, because he's never had any off the field or any issues. I think he's a guy of integrity. I think he'll keep that team in line, even though it's a veteran team. I mean, there's still a lot of young players, but I think the core of them are now veterans. And then I've got two players that, once this stupid strike, which I'm not feeling confident is going to be over anytime soon. But get me Chris Bryant, and get me the second name is going to surprise you because I haven't mentioned it. Get me, because I didn't realize he was a free agent. Get me Kepley Jansen, and not as a closer, as the eighth inning guy. And
I didn't realize he was a free agent either.
Yeah. Get me him as an eighth inning guy, but also if Edwin Diaz kind of falters, you can slide him into the closer role. But Chris Bryant, I think now you can put Escobar at second base. You've got a solid infield. You've got if you don't make any, I guess you'd have to trade some of these guys that would be on the bench. But I'm not giving up on Jeff McNeil though. I mean, the guy for his first 3 years batted over 300, and he had an off year last year. I think he's going to be fine. I find a place to play him. I hope the National League has the DH, and then that at least opens up another slot. So, but I think if you get Chris Bryant, he's not playing in the infield every day, put it that way. But he also can play the outfield, which is good. But Chris Bryant also can play the outfield. So I think it gives you a lot of flexibility. The long season is always injuries, things like that. But those are the two guys that I want. Those are my resolutions. Fix that culture, make it so that, there's not so much of this off the field stuff, and that, you vet people a little bit better, from Mickey Callaway to Jared Scott to, all this other stuff that happened just in this past year, Carlos Beltran even, who I think does deserve another shot, but, hopefully he will someday. But their culture has been off for a while now, and I think that's affected their on the field stuff. So that's my Mets one. What's your Yankees resolution?
My Yankees resolution is start spending money smartly.
Okay. Yeah.
And also, I guess part of what that would be, get more athletic. And athletic, I mean, kind of more get some more speed there. Because my worry is that the Yankees are going to be too frugal and not want to spend money, and I think that that's a mistake. I think that they need to spend something. Part of me says that they haven't done any off-season stuff because they've been waiting to see what the CBA is going to look like. That's also probably why the Dodgers haven't done anything really, and also the Red Sox. But once the CBA is finalized, you got to get one of the top two shortstops. I'm still a little skeptical as to whether or not they're going to.
Yeah.
I think they really like their young shortstops a lot. But if you're not going to get one of the top shortstops, if you get a stopgap, like an Andrelton Simmons type of guy, fine. But that also means you got to improve first base. You got to improve center field. You can look at third base. Bring back Rizzo, and then I know you just said him, but bring Brian in. Have the Brizzo connection back from Chicago.
Yeah. Oh boy.
But I think the Yankees really just need to, like, I think bringing this same team back again isn't going to really do much. You have too many guys that are pretty slow on the field, and then also just like they're just home run hitters. They need guys that can get on base. They need guys that are more contact type hitters, guys that can steal bases. And like I know they're not really like starting pitching isn't really that much of a priority, but even adding another arm in there wouldn't be bad. I think I heard somewhere that they offered Justin Verlander like $50 million a year, which would be insane. But maybe that also says that maybe they're willing to spend some more money.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Because like it seems like the Yankees are kind of in that spot where they're a good team, but they're not a great team. Like it always seems like there's a team that's better than them out there. Like last year, you could tell clearly the Rays were like the top echelon team. In years past, it's been the Astros. It doesn't seem like the Yankees in this like new core has really ever gotten to that point. And I think it's because they don't have that guy like DJ LeMahieu's a great contact hitter, but he's also not a guy that can steal out of bases. Brett Gardner would have been that guy like 10 years ago. So I think getting a little bit more speed and being willing to spend money. Bring in Story or Correa, bring in maybe another starting pitcher, trade for a guy like Matt Olson. They've talked about maybe Matt Chapman. Make some kind of trade with the A's because I think the A's are going to just sell everyone anyway. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't mention Freddie Freeman though.
Freddie Freeman too.
Yeah.
Like first base, we gotta like. It seems like they've turned on Voit, which I don't understand why, because I think Voit has been excellent. But you got to bring in somebody new, even if it's bringing back Rizzo. I would say, see what Freddie Freeman wants. Just don't give him like 12 years because that would be ridiculous.
No,
see what he wants.
Oh my gosh, I don't think he'd want to play 12 more years anyway. I think Freddie Freeman is. I think he'd stay in Atlanta, but he would make a great fit on the Yankees. The athletic thing I think is big. I love that you said that. And you said something that probably has never been said in a long time. You mentioned the Yankees and frugal in the same sentence, which that never happened. And it's interesting to see why they've all of a sudden gotten a little guarded on spending their money, which is not bad because oh my gosh, they've given out some bad contracts over the years, but they also have hit the jackpot with some, as well. So it's never been their culture not to spend, so, or at least not in my lifetime, not since the 70s. So, all right, excellent. All right, New Year's resolutions for the Knicks. I'm going to go with continue to build what you're building. And I jotted down here defense because that was their mantra last year. These last few games, last night was a great effort defensively. And you went back to the basics. You gave the ball to Julius Randle. He got hot. I think he had 32 points last night. He had something like 14, 15 rebounds. That was kind of a vintage game, which we hadn't really seen this year, which we saw every night last year. But it was really just great defense last night, especially in the fourth quarter with this Indiana team, which can be very pesky. They've got some pretty good players too, but they were missing a lot of players as well, but every team is. And so build on that. Even though I'm one of those guys, go get John Wall or whatever, I like that they resisted, making that big move. The only player that I would want to see them give up a few players for would be Damian Lillard, because I just think that his window is going to close there in Portland. And I just think that he's a winning ball player. He's not only great offensively, he's good defensively. He's a high character guy. He's just one of those guys. Bradley Beal, I feel the same way about too. But Bradley Beal is more of a pure scorer. I think Lillard is just a great all-around player, and I think he would thrive in New York. I can see it, but if you got to give up the whole team like we did for Carmelo several years ago, that might not work. But they've resisted all that stuff of late. But I think eventually, if you're going to get to the finals, you do need at least one star to go alongside, Randall. And, at some point, and there's got to be a lot of players that will want to come here now because I think they have kind of fixed the culture. If you notice, there's very little drama on the Knicks right now. Even when they were losing, you didn't hear about stuff and fighting with the media and everything like that. Although they're still guarded with that, but that is what it is. But you don't hear about Dolan. When was the last time Dolan was in the news? And so I think they've worked hard on that. Just build what you're building, but have that defense culture, which has always been, when they were good in the 90s, they were great defensively. 90s and thousands under Van Gundy, they were fantastic defensively, and just continue to build on that. So go ahead, what do you got?
Well, you mentioned the no nonsense in the media. Kemba Walker was benched, and you still didn't hear anything. So I agree with you there.
Yeah.
My resolution is kind of a little bit different from yours, but it still works. Let the kids play.
Yeah.
Like you had said, like for me, the Knicks, obviously, they're not winning the title this year. They're maybe not even getting to the Eastern Conference Finals this year. Like, clearly, the Nets are better than them. The Bucks are better than them. Probably the Bulls this year, maybe the Wizards. Like, there are teams that are definitely a step in front of them. And in order to get better in the NBA, you need some kind of star. So, like, the best way to get a star is to either build one in your team or trade for one. But either path, you need to have value in order to trade them. Like, I look at a guy like Obi Toppin, who seems like he's only playing like 15, 20 minutes a night. You got to get him on the court more.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know whose minutes he would take. Like, maybe a guy like Nerlens Noel, although Noel has played well.
Yeah.
But like, you got to get guys like Obi Toppin in. Get putting Grimes in there a little bit more than he's been playing.
Yeah.
I love the fact that they've played quickly as much as they have, but also like give him a few more starts, not just when like, oh, well, Derrick Rose is out. Well, obviously he's out for a while. But like, oh, Kemba Walker's not playing, or Evan Fournier is out with COVID. Like, give him a little bit more time to start to kind of take a little bit more ownership of the offense. Because like quickly can turn into that star that you need, or he can turn into a really good piece to trade for a star that you need.
Yeah.
Obi Toppin the same way. Like, I think you got to give a little bit more time to the young kids, because either way they'll get experience, they can improve their game, or they'll just even be like kind of that trade bait. Because yeah, as the Knicks are constructed now, they need at least another piece, maybe even a second piece as well. Because like Julius Randle, who great, he like you said, he had a great game yesterday.
Yeah.
He's gonna need help. RJ Barrett's been good at times and kind of shaky at times. Kemba Walker, once he's come back into the lineup, has been great, but he's also not going to be the number 2 guy, especially in 1 to 2 years from now. He's not going to be that guy. He'll be a great role player, great guy on the bench, but he's not going to be like the secondary star you need.
Yeah.
So I think they need to let the kids play. Like,
yeah.
I don't think that's Thibodeau's vibe necessarily, but like, in order to get to that point where you can win a championship, these guys got to get more reps. They just gotta.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Awesome. Well, this was fun. We got some fun facts still left, right?
Yeah. You want to go first?
Yeah, because I like when you close this out. I'm going to give a quick tribute to John Madden. And I don't know if they're fun facts, but they might be interesting because I think John Madden's career is so split in two. I think most know him for his announcing, most know him for the Madden game. I remember him on these light beer commercials where he break through the paper and it tastes great, but a couple of things. So he coached the Raiders. It doesn't seem like that young now because you have younger coaches like LaFleur and McVay. You've got a lot of young coaches in the NFL now, but he was only 33 years old when he was hired to be the head coach of the Raiders in 1969. So he coached them. He didn't have a very long coaching career. 69 to 78. He after he won the Super Bowl, he coached one more year, and but he still, even though it's not a ton of games, I think it's still a great achievement. He still has the highest winning percentage. Did you know this? He still has the highest winning percentage of any coach. And so it's 10 seasons. So I think it's still pretty good. He had 100 wins, 32 losses, 7 ties. So it shows there were a lot of ties back then for the regular season. But he was only 9-7 in the playoffs. The Raiders would lose to the Steelers every year, it seems like, that immaculate reception game. There's still a famous thing of showing him on the sideline, just holding his head. He couldn't believe it happened, because he was the head coach of the Raiders then. It wasn't until 77 they beat the Vikings in the Super Bowl. They got to the Super Bowl and beat the Vikings. So he's also the only broadcaster to work on 4 major networks: CBS, Fox, NBC, and ABC. Right. So yeah, he's the only one to work on all 4. So this isn't a real interesting fact, but I thought it was when when Fox was really coming up, because in the 70s and 80s there wasn't a Fox network. That kind of grew in the mid 80s, and then they had The Simpsons was really their first big show. They had Sunday night shows. They had only a few nights during the week, and then they grew and they grew, and they had the backing of Rupert Murdoch, and they got the NFL, which cost them a lot of money, and CBS lost the NFL. And so their first big move was to take CBS's number 1 broadcast crew, which was Pat Summerall and John Madden. And when Madden went to Fox, that immediately brought the credibility, to Fox. And they've built from there. Now, they pretty much have covered every major sport, I think, except the NBA. But, look how long baseball has been on Fox now. The World Series, since 96, I think. The World Series has been on Fox every year. So he was a big part of them building, and their credibility to be a major network. CBS eventually got it back when NBC lost the NFL for a little while. And then obviously NBC got it back with Sunday Night Football. So I think John Madden, a wonderful career. I just, he was missed when he resigned a few years back, when he retired rather a few years back. He was missed then. He's certainly going to be missed, quite just a larger than life type figure. So anyway, interesting facts, but I just wanted to give my shout out to John Madden. What's yours?
Yeah. Well, I have a few here. First off, I'm going to give a little bit of a shout out to Mike Tomlin. We talked about Antonio Brown, his first coach. Now he's had 15 straight winning seasons to start his career.
Wow.
He is the only coach to do that.
I didn't know that.
And especially this year, it didn't seem like very likely.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Another amazing guy is Tom Brady. So, as you know, Tom Brady clinched his division. He's now won his division 18 of the 21 seasons of his career. But listen to the 3 that he didn't win it. 2002, he led the league in touchdowns, so you can't really blame him for that.
Right.
2008, when he tore his ACL, obviously you can't really blame him for that. Right. And then last year, he just won the Super Bowl. So
that's amazing.
Tom Brady's crazy.
Oh my God, it's just amazing.
I got a couple more here. The Dolphins. I don't know if you've kind of followed their season. They're the first team in NFL history to have both a 7-game losing streak and a 7-game winning streak in the same season. Wow. Been a very weird season for them.
I knew about the winning streak. I didn't realize they had lost 7 in a row too. Wow. Okay.
And so Tua's kind of found his way-ish. And lastly, you had talked about John Madden. I'm going to give a little bit of a shout out to Betty White, who obviously passed away last week. Just to kind of show, I guess, how old she was. Here are the World Series that were won before Betty White was born. The Red Sox won 5, the A's won 3, the Giants, White Sox, and Cubs won 2. The Pirates, Braves, Reds, and Indians each won 1. The Yankees hadn't won any World Series.
Wow.
And also everybody else too. So.
Oh wow. Wow. What a life. Yeah. That's a great, very interesting fact. What a legacy that she leaves. What a life. Very quietly also, I'll say this real quick, and I want you to close us out. Dan Reeves passed away, and Dan Reeves is just a very underrated but great coach. He was successful. He's one of the few that have taken 2 teams to the Super Bowl. Didn't win with the Falcons, but didn't win the Super Bowl with the Falcons, but built them and took them to the Super Bowl. Did well with the Giants. But I remember him from wearing a shirt and tie on the sidelines. Tom Landry, he obviously came up through the Dallas Cowboys. He was a player for them. And then he was a player coach for a little while with the Cowboys. And Tom Landry was the one who always wore a jacket and tie, and I think Tom Landry was because he felt like he was playing back then. He was playing only on Sundays. And he felt like that was honoring God, because he was a strong Christian man and felt like on Sundays you had to wear a jacket and tie. And Dan Reeves took that same thing. But Dan Reeves as a coach with Denver, I mean, him and Elway just did such special things. And so, he passed away very quietly this past week. And I think he was only 77, but he had been sick for a little while,
Yeah.
So yeah, Betty White, John Madden, Dan Reeves, man, oh man, tributes to them. All right, close us out there, sir.
All right, so this is Kenny Squared End.
Kenny.
With Sports on the Positive Tip. We will see you guys next week. Hopefully we'll have some fun playoff stuff to talk about.
Yes, we will, and happy 2022.